Hey, what's up? I'm Mike Squires. This is Couch's Podcast, episode number 158. My guest, Acey Slade, who has played with a number of bands, including bands you have heard of, including Dope, Joan Jett and the Heartbreakers, Murderdolls. He's been seen on stage with some legendary punk rock bands who have reunited and played shows recently. And played some like legendary venues doing in the process of doing so, and is one of the hardest working guys in rock and roll. He's recently started Catfight Coffee. Go check those guys out, catfightcoffee.com, with his wife. It's all mail order right now. It's great packaging, great merch. Go give them a look, give it a try also. And support small business. It's great. I had a great time talking with Acey. Acey was one of the first guests that I had on Couch Riffs, but it was a different format. I didn't really have a podcast then. I just was doing the videos. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. It kind of goes in a lot of different directions, of course, as all these do. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. If you are enjoying, please do consider supporting us at Patreon, patreon.com/couchriffs. That's the one and only place you can support us. It's the one and only place you can download the audio of the cover songs that we do. I know I've been talking about this for a month. It's coming up on a month since I was able to release a video, but I'm waiting on vocals for 6 videos right now. I mean, I had videos lined up for 6 months. I have 15 videos that I'm building right now. So there's stuff coming, but people, we're waiting on people. So thank you for being patient. Thank you for listening and supporting, sharing, commenting, emailing, writing in. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Also, thank you to River City Guitars. RiverCityGuitars.com is a small but mighty and expanding guitar store in Spokane, Washington. Every day is a buying day. They will buy your stuff. Man, I'm telling you, shoot them an email, sales.rivercityguitars@gmail.com. They are looking for vintage, used, just generally cool boutique-y stuff. I wouldn't send you anywhere that I wouldn't go myself. Bobby over there, the guy who owns and operates River City, is a dear friend of mine, and I absolutely 110% trust him. Give them a call, 509-818-7693. They're the best. We love you, River City. That's it. All right. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. I'm reminded when I sit and talk with folks like Acey, who are, and other folks who are sober people, that, not everyone makes it out. Not everyone makes it to the other side, clear-eyed and healthy. And if you are struggling with drugs or alcohol, you can do it. You can stop. Anyone can stop. If I can stop, you can stop. If Acey can stop, you can stop. If Brian Baker can stop, you can stop. If Duff McKagan can stop, you can fucking stop. So that's it. Also, if you do get sober, don't forget it's not an excuse to be a dickhead. So don't forget to not be a dickhead. Yes.
Yo.
Yeah, buddy.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Man, I'm so sorry, but I swear to God, I went through my entire day just like knowing that we were starting at 7, just like, no, in my heart, just knowing it.
It's funny how that works, right? Like where you're just like positive, like, no, it's this, and then it's totally not.
That's kind of that's the climate of humanity. it can be argued that, yeah. Anyway, I don't even. Everybody knows they're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, it's I had this exact conversation with a bandmate of mine, and so basically he is the PA for the guitar player for Rammstein.
Oh wow.
And like they recorded a live concert and the hard drive went missing. And one of the guys said, "Oh, I gave it to Joe, my friend. Like, what'd you do with it?" And he's like, "You never gave me that hard drive." And the guy's like, "I absolutely did." And like, he's like, "I would have remembered if you'd have given me that hard drive." And he convinced himself that he did actually lose it. And then later on, the guy was like, "Oh, I had it the whole time."
Right.
Like he convinced himself that dude was right. He's like, I think maybe when we were in that dressing room, he might have given it to me, uh yeah, maybe he did. I think he did. I think I lost the whole show. And then the dude came back and apologized, like, "No, I had it the whole time."
That would be a pretty gnarly bit of weight to be carrying around.
Yes.
And I would say shame on you guys for not having backing it up immediately. Not you, but
I know. But it is funny, dude, like how sometimes some of the behind the scenes shit that like goes on with these massive bands where there's just like
oh,
simple no-brainers like that, and you're like, nobody thought of this? Dude,
it's
I
just
don't know,
the
maybe I
same
should save
as
it
a garage band. Same shit.
maybe I should save it for when we get into the interview. I don't want to
Oh, we're
get into
recording,
too many
buddy.
stories.
We're
What's that?
recording. We're recording. I can cut that out if it's too,
Oh, okay. No, it's cool. Uh when I was playing with Joan, we were playing Sweden Rock Festival,
Yeah.
right? And
Wait.
I'm a
What
nerd.
year
Like,
was that?
oh God, um,
Was it
20.
2012?
It might have been.
We played right before you because
That's right. I remember that.
Joan's guitar rack was right on the side of the stage, and I was just like, "Fuck, there it is. There's the melody maker."
That's not actually the one,
But it
but
sure looks
that's
like
one.
it. Yeah, it's
It's
one that she plays. That's cool. Yeah,
yeah, the one is in storage, but the the one that she has, though, she has still had for a very, very, very long time and has seen a lot of battles. So
right. Okay,
yeah.
sorry, I interrupted you in my excitement that
Oh,
we played back to back that day.
now we figured it out.
What?
Where our paths crossed in another life.
Oh, but what were you gonna say? You were gonna tell me a story, and I fucked you.
So we I love touring. I really do, and I'm a total nerd about it. And when I get itineraries, the first thing I do is like look at all the places and figure out if I've been there before, and if I haven't, look on Google Maps to figure out where it is and all this stuff. And I saw that Sweden Rock Festival was in Kristianstad, Sweden. The day before, we were playing Oslo, Norway. Norway has a music festival called, is it Pink Pop? I think. That's in Kristiansand, Norway, which I'd played before, which is also actually a pretty funny story. But we I'd played there a long time ago, and I remember clearly thinking like, "Oh, isn't that funny that we're going to be in Norway and there's a city a couple hours not far away that has nearly the same name, but yet we're going to Sweden. And I wonder why we're not playing that festival." And I remember making that connection. So when I got our itineraries, I noticed that we were flying from Oslo to Kristiansand, Norway, not Kristianstad, Sweden,
Right.
right? And I said to our tour manager, I was like, "Hey, listen, like," because they're very much about rank and file. Do you know what I mean? Like stay in
Sure.
your lane. And I was like, like I don't want to say anything, but I'm pretty sure our flight is going to Kristiansand, Norway, not Kristianstad, Sweden. And of course, it's you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. You know how like they spell Cologne, Germany, KLON, or
Glenn.
however they spell. Right? He's like, that's what it is. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay. So we go to check into our flight. We check all the gear. We check everything. Everything is checked. And as we're walking away, uh, the desk attendant said something to our tour manager, something like, he's like, all right, well, can't wait to get back to Norway. He says something about going to Sweden. She goes, oh, you're not going to Sweden. And he's like, well, yeah, we are. And she's like, no, you're going to Kristiansand, Norway. And he's like, no, we're going to Kristiansand, Sweden. She's like, I'm telling you, I just took your tickets. You're
Yeah.
staying in Norway. Bert, hold the bus, stop the conveyor belt. And the whole time I'm like, I fucking told you, man. And you wouldn't think that an organization that big
Sure.
would fuck something like that up. And on top of it, after somebody in the organization even told you. So,
Pointed it out. But I mean, I know a lot of things have changed. People have like, s- you know, not everyone, but a lot of people have stopped using travel agents, because you can just book your own stuff. You can even book it as you're going. Hell, right
mhm.
now, can you imagine if you were actually out touring right now? Because people are playing shows. There are people who are playing shows.
I did one last summer. Um, and I gotta tell you, you have to, there's a lot of people who, uh, I think don't look at the big picture. So, um, we did a show last summer. And again, like I said, I'm a total nerd. I love
When you say
going places,
we,
with Dope.
yeah,
Um, so we did a show that was in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. I got offered to do the gig. I did due diligence. I looked. There was uh, very low reported cases of COVID there, extremely low. It's the middle of cow pastures, and what they did was they took a big field behind a venue that could hold 10,000 people. They had 2,000 people play, not play, attend. And no one was allowed backstage, hand sanitizers everywhere. People had to wear masks, the whole thing. And I had a lot of trepidation about it. And I got to be honest with you, I felt okay. Like in the end, what I saw, and I couldn't believe it because, like, let's face it, metalheads and punk people are knuckleheads. We're rebellious, right?
sure.
Everybody was so happy to be at a show that they were wearing masks, they were distancing themselves, and I think that if they would have put up like some bike rack style barricades that were 12 feet apart, something like that, it could have been even more uh, protective or whatever. I felt okay with that, but I also know that that's a very isolated situation. You know
Did
what I
you
mean?
did you fly to the gig or did you guys drive?
I did, and that was the place where everything felt the weirdest was in the airports in Chicago, where nobody was wearing masks.
Really?
People are not 6 feet apart. People at the concert were more progressive than people at the airport.
Wait a minute. No one at the airport was wearing a mask, or
I mean, not no
not
one,
that many. Yeah,
not no one, but
yeah,
not a lot of people.
right. I haven't even driven past the fucking airport.
Yeah,
Um, and I know that it's, I don't know. I know a lot of people who have flown this year, the last year,
yeah.
and they're okay. Um,
We went to Mexico 2 weeks ago. Actually a little more than that. Um, but again, it was a similar situation where our travel vouchers from last year were going to expire. Uh, there was nobody at the airport. There was nobody on the plane.
Wait a minute. They didn't extend the fucking the vouchers. That sucks.
No, yeah, well, that's
Wow.
United. I
Wow.
got to tell you, dude, one of the most gratifying moments I had, and I feel bad about myself even saying this out loud to you, but I'm sure that you're going to understand, and you know me well enough to know that I'm not this kind of person. But we we so anyway, there was nobody on the plane. There's like 10 people on the plane. There's
Right.
nobody at the airport. We went to the resort. There was nobody there. We visited coffee plantations out in Tepic,
Mm-hmm.
and that was all very what do you say? Yeah, we weren't in like close quarters. We were out
Yeah.
in the coffee plantation, and everybody was wearing masks. And in fact, our guide from the cooperative, I mean, that guy was super diligent. Like it was like when we would sit down to eat, he's like, "You got to eat 6 feet apart from me." Like
Yeah.
everybody was super cool. And our hotels, I mean, it was like they sprayed the bottoms of your shoes, they sprayed your hands, they sprayed your luggage.
Oh
I
wow.
felt I felt okay with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guess one could argue that well, what if I would have taken the trip and it wasn't like that? But it was like that, so it was great.
Right.
But but my point was, we got to the airport, and we have a United card, and I'm a United Miles member, and we're checking our bags, and they're like, "Yeah, you got to pay for your bags," and we're like, "No, we don't," and we didn't have to on the way down, you know, and I'm like, "No," I'm like, "We used our card," and I showed the United card. She was like, "Yeah, but you didn't pay for them with the United card." And I'm like, "Yeah, we did." She's like, "No, you paid with a voucher." And I'm like, "Yeah, the voucher was paid
Or
for
a
with the
flight.
United
Yeah.
card."
Yeah. Of course.
And she's like, "Well, I can't change anything. You have to pay for your bags." And I'm like, "I know that you can."
Right.
And she's like, "Well, no, sir. You clearly never paid for this flight with your United card or with and just
Did you
and I
pull up
just
your credit card receipt?
that's what she's like. I mean, my credit card receipt from a year ago,
I mean,
you know, and so I felt again. I feel like a dick. I felt like I was being George Costanza, but I felt like I was being George Costanza and I won. Like I'm like, look, I'm like, you know, you're looking at my miles. I have a lot of miles. You're looking at my card. I'm a good customer, right? I'm
right.
a good customer.
Why
But
would you
guess
want
what?
to shit
Now
on
I
me?
have a choice which airline I'm going to fly. And guess what? There's nobody in your line. So now, next time I go to fly, I can fly with American or I can fly with Delta. And that's really bad for you because you could lose your job. And I could see her like getting upset about it. And I didn't mean to make her upset about it. But at the same time, dude, let me have my luggage. you know?
Yeah, pretty stupid.
So I
Uh,
know it's stupid, and I feel like I was really entertaining my lower self. But it's just these airlines have had you by the balls for so long, and I felt like there was this one moment where I could rattle them instead of them rattling us, and I
sure.
took it.
So, where did you go in Mexico? Were you in San Cristobal?
Yeah, yes, actually,
Yeah,
yes,
San Cristobal de las Casas.
yeah. We
Big
flew
coffee
into Puerto
region.
Vallarta.
Yeah,
Was that?
big coffee region.
Yes, yes. And we flew into Puerto Vallarta and stayed there for 2 days. Went up to the plantations in the mountains, and dude, just driving through the mountains with the car windows down, listening to Queen, with the sun on your arm and the sun on your face after being locked inside for a year and a half.
Yeah, man.
Oh my God. That was the nicest drive I've ever taken in my life, except for on the way back. That
You
was a bit crazy.
you rented a car and drove up that mountain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a quite a haul. I
Yeah.
took a second class bus up that fucker.
Dude, we so when we went there, I was told do not drive at night.
Yeah,
And
don't do it.
I thought it was because of like banditos or something.
No.
Dude, people drive like freaking lunatics there. And there was a moment where like we were coming down a hill, and there's like a little gully thing. We're coming down a hill, and there's one of those tour buses passing a tow truck that tows Mack trucks. So it's like a Mack truck tow truck. He's passing it going down the hill, and
Don't
I'm looking, and I'm like, we are not gonna make
live.
this. Like, I'm looking, and dude, I got as close to the shoulder as I could, but there was no like real shoulder.
Right.
And fortunately, the truck driver braked. He slammed on his brakes, and the dude cut in just in time. Dude, that was the scariest moment because there, like, the only thing that's going through your mind is there's no way I'm gonna win this because I'm in a Honda Civic or whatever it is we rented, and that's a bus,
Yeah, dude.
and I'm
It
about to be in a head-on collision with a bus.
That's terrifying.
That was terrifying.
But you made it.
I did.
It's bueno fortuna.
That was no bueno.
Good fortune.
Good fortune, yeah.
Um, it's beautiful up there, man. I fucking love Mexico.
I
I
gotta tell you,
love it.
when we went, my wife, my wife's from Taiwan,
Yeah.
and she was like, it was kind of funny because she was stereotyping Mexico. Like when we left, I was like, "So what'd you think?" And she's like, "Well, I thought we were only going to eat tacos and burritos, but Mexican people eat more than tacos and burritos." And
That's true.
I'm like, and people from Taiwan don't eat egg rolls and they don't eat General Tso's. And she's like, "Yeah, I guess you're right." But she she went with some, not trepidation, but it was like, well, here's a place we can go that's warm, that we feel is safe, and we feel is okay. Like Mexico
Not
wasn't her
Florida.
first place to pick. What's that?
It's not
Yeah,
Florida.
exactly. So as soon as we got home, she's like, let's go to Oaxaca. She's like all in on Mexico
Have you
food.
been to Oaxaca before?
No.
It's incredible, man. It's really incredible. I visited Oaxaca the same trip that I took when I visited San Cristobal de las Casas and Pie de la Cuesta, and visited a bunch of ruins. And yeah, and Mexico
It's
City is
such a
incredible too, but maybe not the spot right now.
no, I wouldn't have felt okay about that, like I wouldn't have felt responsible going there. But yeah, Puerto Vallarta, there's nobody there. So in the city, I say city, but it's not really a city. Um, it was pretty vacant. But everybody was wearing masks. Everybody had hand sanitizer. Everybody was 6 feet apart. I felt as comfortable there as I do in New York. And New York does a really good job, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. And traveling, just the general vibe of traveling is pretty good.
on that trip it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple of opportunities to take off and get on a plane, and I just can't make myself do it.
Yeah.
Um are you in line to get vaccinated?
I am.
You are.
I am. Yeah. And you know, I I had some trepidation about getting vaccinated, but I have a doctor friend of mine, and he and I talked about it, and he's like, "Look, I'm just going to tell you two things." He's like, "Number one, Bill Gates already has all your information. He doesn't need to insert a microchip in you. Like he already got it all from your iPhone. Um, so don't worry about that." And additionally, do you really think you're that important? I was like,
Right.
yeah, I guess so. Um, but and then his other point was, he's like, the vaccine's been around for like 20 years. So they had it for SARS. Um, it's not like this brand new chemical that they just invented like in the
Right.
ninth hour. where it was like, oh shit, we got to throw something together to make people better. No, this vaccine's been around for 20 years. It has been tested. It has been vetted. They did need to modify it, but
Right.
when you put it that way, I felt a lot better about it. And I feel like if it's I I I had the attitude of like, let me let everybody else get the vaccination first, and then I'll see what happens. But you know, they just announced today that Reading and Leeds are a go. That venues in the
In
UK
21?
are, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That venues in the UK are going to open at the end of August. And I have a sneaky
Really?
suspicion that for people traveling abroad, the next thing that's going to be is a travel passport showing that you've been vaccinated.
Right.
And if it means me getting back to work and playing shows, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready to get it as soon as they even said the word, and I haven't.
Yeah,
I'm a first responder. I haven't been able to get one. I haven't
yeah,
been able to get even the first shot.
yeah,
It's, I don't know what the situation is in the city. I know there's these waiting lists you can jump on, or you can, you know, go get the day old bread or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You can go to the fucking, like we did when I was a kid. You go to the bakery thrift store or whatever, the shit that nobody wanted. You can get the end of
yeah,
the day cupcakes, but uh so far nothing, you know.
yeah. I don't know. My wife handles that, so
Yeah,
she put me on the list. I got the email, and
great.
she was mad because for some reason I'm a 1B or B1, so I'm like second second highest in priority. And she's
Yeah,
like, "How did that happen?" I'm like, "I don't know. You filled out my forms. Guess because
right.
I'm old. I don't know.
You're not that old. You're not older
Almost
than me.
almost 50.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah.
Me too. Hey, you're from Philly, is that right?
Outside of Philly, Chester County. So it's like right between Philly and Amish country,
Right. What
closer to
town?
Amish country,
What town is it?
Downingtown.
Downingtown. I just had John Worster. Do you know who John Worster is on the podcast? And
Uh-uh.
he's from there, somewhere out there.
Who is he?
He's a drummer. He's in that band Super Chunk. He plays with
Oh,
Bob
okay.
Gold, and he's played with everyone.
Okay.
REM, all kinds of fuckers.
Hmm.
I
No,
thought maybe you might, who knows? Maybe you'd know that guy.
no,
No dice.
no, I don't know. But I do know that Baylor Guitars. Are you familiar with them?
Baylor?
I think maybe I'm saying it wrong. Um,
Balaguer?
is that it?
They have a lot of the like offset guitars and
Yeah, yeah.
Balaguer.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
They're based in Phoenixville, PA, which isn't too far from me.
Oh,
Um,
now.
they let's see. Guess these things were working. Huh? They're in the town that where I had a whole bunch of my guitars stolen, and they ended up in a pawn shop in
Uh,
that town.
right.
So anytime I hear the name of that town, I'm like,
You got him back though?
I got all of them back except for one. I didn't get my limited edition Gibson RD back.
Ah, right.
Yeah,
Uh,
you can't just run down to the store and grab one of those.
yeah, Guitar Thieves. There's a special place in hell of upside down open
Yeah, well,
lemon and salt sores.
yeah.
Hell. Um, when I want to, you were one of the first guests that I had on Couch Riffs, but it was like the old format, so we never really got a podcast. We never really did a podcast. We like rapped on the
No.
couch and we sort of rapped long enough to have some sound bites to string together a short episode, and then we were off and running. But I wanted to like I want you to express your story.
I'm so old school couch riffs that I was from when it was called the Riff. And you gave me this awesome piece of swag, and then all of a sudden, I remember clearly saying, "Well, dude, we're sitting on a couch. Why don't we call it couch riffs?"
Right.
And
What's the riff?
it's a bar in Helsinki, actually.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
One of my
never-
friends helps promote and run it, and they sent me some swag.
I don't think I've ever been to Helsinki. That's stupid. Oh no, I have been. I've been to Helsinki. What's the club there with the
Hmm.
really high stage? It's like kind of in the corner, right?
Tavista.
Maybe. Michael
We
Monroe got
played it,
up and sang with us there.
of course. The
It was
the
great. That
mayor of
guy, a lot of energy.
I think he is rock and roll's. Not only do I think that he's rock and roll's best front man, I think he's the most underrated front man, and just as far as embodying the spirit of rock and roll, that's the guy, man.
He was like doing high kicks at sound check. It was incredible. He was jumping up like he was performing at sound check. It was incredible.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
enough about Michael Monroe. He can come on talk about his approach to sound check.
And as far as if you listen to Ryan Roxy's podcast,
Yeah.
he was on there, and that guy, like rock and roll knowledge, like that guy can tell you like the release date of like a Chuck Berry record. Like
Wow.
he's so knowledgeable.
He was also in New York at all the right times.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah. That's crazy. What a life that guy's had.
yeah.
So you grow up in we say suburbs or rural Pennsylvania?
I'd say rural, man.
Rural.
I used to wake up to the sound of horse and buggies clip clopping up the highway.
How far away was your closest neighbor?
Not very far.
Right.
Imagine like the easiest way to think of it is like Pet Cemetery or Maximum Overdrive. Like this big highway
Yeah.
that's like in the middle of nowhere. So there was it was really weird. Like our house was like 5 feet from. I guess a long time ago it wasn't a busy highway.
Oh, yeah.
So our house was built like right up to the highway,
Yeah.
and so the windows would rattle when the trucks would go by, and there was a house like right next to us, but behind us though were big fields and stuff like that.
It's great. I mean, I out where I live, their houses are really right up on the road too, and it's crazy.
Right?
But, the roads weren't yeah. They didn't have big rigs back when those routes were created.
True.
Uh so did you always have the bug? Like as a kid, like young, like 5-year-old AC, were you like, I'm gonna be a rock and roller? Or were you like, I'm gonna play baseball for the Phillies?
What? Oh, no, 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 because
You
I
never
I was
had
a
that.
chubby little kid, so sports was not going to be
Never in
part of
your
my thing. Nah. But but part of that was, my sister, my older sister. I'll never forget. My older sister was listening to Cheap Trick's Dream Police,
yeah.
and her and her friend are looking at the Gatefold, which I still think is one of the best album packaging ever. Uh, and and they're gooing over the guys, And my mom walks by and she looks and she goes, "Those guys aren't even handsome. You just like them because they have long hair and they're in a band." And me being a chubby little kid as a teenager, I was like, "So wait, all I got to do is grow my hair and be in a band, and then people will like me, you know?"
Right.
And then that evolved into we used to give performances along the highway. So across the street from our house was like a feed store, and they would pile up these big bags of mulch, which
Right.
I didn't know what mulch was. I thought mulch was mulch, right? And we used to take our boombox over there, and we would play like AC/DC and Judas Priest, and we put on these air guitar concerts
Yeah.
alongside the highway for people driving by. And my mom would repeatedly say to me, like, "Why are you doing that on these giant bags of mulch?" And I'm like, "It's just mulch." And it wasn't until much later that I realized that it was cow shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, you should have broke it down, mom.
It's a strong tell when you say we would put on our show in front of the feed store on the mulch bags. Yeah, I mean, if you would have led with that sentence, I wouldn't have asked, so you didn't grow up in the suburbs? Because people say, oh, you grew up in the suburbs. No, i I didn't grow up in the suburbs, and I don't even live in the suburbs now. Like, we drive
Yeah,
pretty far to the grocery store. But
yeah,
yeah, that's amazing. I feel like we probably had relatively similar um childhoods.
yeah, yeah,
uh
yeah.
when did you get your first guitar?
I got my first guitar. I was like 13 or 14,
Was that your
and
first musical instrument, or did you play the drum in school band or anything like that?
I played a little drums. I didn't really like it because it was it was theory based right off of the bat,
Right.
which in hindsight I could kick myself, but it was like, okay, you want to play drums? Yeah, here's some sheet music, and I was like, what the hell's that got to do with
More
anything?
math. Wow.
Yeah, right. Um, and then I kind of stumbled around a little bit. Like I wish I had that story of like, yeah, the first time I picked up a guitar, I locked myself in a room for 8 hours a day for a year, and that wasn't my uh, experience. My experience was that um, I had a hard time making friends. Uh, I felt awkward. I didn't feel like I fit in, and one place I did feel like I fit in was with other kids who felt like they didn't fit in, and they were starting bands,
Right.
and I liked writing songs, and so
Later
I
on, booze will
that
help
appealed.
that, though.
Was that?
Later on, booze will help that.
Yeah, well, there's that, right? Yeah, exactly. Um, and that was my experience, and it was like as soon as I figured out you really got me and communication breakdown, and I learned them by ear. uh I was like, cool, now I can write songs and be in a band.
Right. Those are two of the most direct and powerful riffs in rock.
Totally,
And did you have
totally.
a band straight away?
Did I
Or
have
did you
Was
have
I
a
in a band
band with
straight away?
like kids your age making a racket straight away?
Yeah, yeah, and so we started writing songs and playing, and we couldn't find a singer, so I ended up being the singer. So I put guitar to the side and focused on singing, and then after I graduated high school, that's like one thing I did. Like, I mean, back to your earlier question, it was like the plan was graduate high school and get the fuck out of here. That's exactly what I did. The day after I graduated, I moved straight to Philadelphia and got a job at like a rock and roll clothing store, like a trash and vaudeville type place,
Right.
and got an apartment above it. Like I wanted to be in the middle of all things music, you
Right.
know. And I was like, I'm going to work at that store. The apartment above it became up for rental. I'm like, well, I'll move there.
Did you know
And we
folks when
used to,
you moved to Philly? Did you know people already?
yeah, yeah. I had already kind of started to venture into the city. I mean, another moment that I very clearly remember was being, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember the moment we took our first class trip into the city. And I
Yeah.
remember being on that school bus and the smell of that rubber that school buses smell like, and seeing graffiti and seeing adult
Record
toy
store.
stores
Yeah.
and seeing all that shit and just being like, that's where I want to be. That's where it's at. That's the real stuff, you
I
know?
had like almost an exact mirrored experience. I even like there's this retaining wall on I-5, as you know, because of the way it's cut through the city of Seattle. It's
Uh-huh.
on a hill, and there's this retaining wall, and every time we would drive through Seattle to go like to the Tacoma Dome for a concert or where to the airport even, uh
Hmm.
I would just look up and see all the apartment buildings up there and just think to myself, man, if I could live up there, everything would be amazing. And I ended
Yes.
up living all in every apartment building up there, just about, you know. And it
Couch surfing.
just regular life.
So pre-couch riffs, you were uh, couch surfing.
I haven't had to do that much couch surfing, knock on wood. But I've done a little bit in my life for
Mm.
sure. So you get to Philly, you're 18, you're just like boom, off and running.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, we're the same age. It's 1989,
Yeah, yeah, about
1990.
that. No, 1990. I graduated in 90, so it would have been 1990.
Yeah, same. Okay. So you 1990, you show up, grunge hasn't even hit. So
No.
what do you what do you pack, what did you pack when you moved? Did you have a guitar and an amp? Did you have like a rig, or were you like, nah, I'm gonna be a singer, man?
I I wanted to be a singer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Singers don't even have microphones of their own usually. That's a
No.
fucking really enviable thing. It's like you just
Yeah.
show up without any. That's a great place to start. Start at the top. That's like, I want to be the president, and then someone's like, how about senator? No, 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 no. I want to be the president. But then if you get a senatorial seat, that's great. You're a senator. Great. So you show up, you don't have a guitar, you got nothing. You got some leopard skin creepers though, probably,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
right? Working at a
definitely.
place like this.
Definitely.
Uh what happens next?
I became an alcoholic
Good
and
job.
real fast. Yeah, I mean that was, it's the old story. It was fun till it wasn't. Well, that's when it was fun. Like I can't lie. I mean, you're young, you don't give a shit. It was drinking bottles of Crazy Horse, and we because we lived. Uh, my roommate also worked in that store, and it was just common knowledge that parties were going to happen at our house later that night.
Sure.
I mean, we would just get people showing up sometimes, be like, "Hey, we're here for the party," and we'd be like, "Oh, come on in.
Cool.
There's nothing planned, but come
What
on
did you
in."
bring to party with?
Exactly.
uh yeah. That's it. I mean, those are easy pitfalls.
Yeah, and it was a
So
good time at that time.
right. Yeah, I wouldn't take anything back.
No, but that was when I knew that I didn't drink like other people, because I remember, I don't remember what it. It's really crazy. I don't remember what it was, but I remember one night I got out of control and was feeling like suicidal,
Right.
and my roommates being afraid. Um, and my other roommate, he was also active and also would get drunk and have y- you know uh, self harm episodes. And I remember my other roommate being like, "Yo, I'm getting the fuck out of here."
Guys are crazy.
Yeah, and sure enough, that guy ended up passing away. Unfortunately, the other guy that had problems, I'm still good friends with the other guy actually. But yeah, that was the moment that I knew that the tiger had me. you
Right.
know. Whereas like I can't like I wasn't done, but that was the moment where it was like, yeah, this ain't cool. But maybe it was just an isolated thing. So,
So
it's a
just roll.
disease that tells you you don't have a disease.
Right. Yeah, yeah, of course. Uh how long before did you ever like back then in 1990 were you the singer in a band?
Yeah, I sang. I had like a couple bands. I had a band called the Moon Dragons, which was
That's
a
a pretty
really
tough name.
fun band. It was what's that?
It's a pretty tough name.
The Moon Dragons. Yeah, we were it was kind of like bluesy rock, like Black Crows, London Choir Boys, Hanoi Rocks, New York Dolls. It was like that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, and then after that, I had a band called Vampire Love Dolls,
Yeah.
and Christian Martucci from Stone Sour
Yeah.
was in that band.
And
And
go sorry.
and so Christian used to come into the store, and I was like, man, that guy's cool as fuck. I was like, we should be in a band together. And I remember he was like 16, dropped out of high school, would drive like this beat the shit Impala, and just would like walk into the stage clothes store at like 16 years old, full makeup, totally done up, like he's about to walk on stage. I'm like, that dude's awesome.
He's the
And
real deal.
so we, yeah, I was like, that guy's edgy, and he had a drummer, and so I joined his band, Vampire Love Dolls, and we played together for a couple years, and then he quit
And this
to
is like
move to New
91.
York City. What's that?
It's like 90, 91.
Yeah, this would have been 91 to like 93, 90. Yeah, about 93. Yeah, 93, 94.
It's very very goth of you guys in 1991 to have a band with such a name. I would
Yeah.
love to see photos of you guys back then.
Oh, I got some.
Oh, good. I
Yeah,
I expect a text after this.
because you're friends with Christian, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Oh, good. Oh, this is
yeah.
rich.
Oh, it was a lot of makeup, a lot of makeup. I had him tone the makeup down. Like he was almost like Paul Stanley,
Wow. I mean, that's it's admirable.
where I was a bit more like a gothic Keith Richards or something.
Right. Like Mike
Or at
Niss,
least that's what I
little
thought. That
sympathetic.
sounded that sounds really fucking cool. I assure you, I was not that cool.
You're like Mike Ness, like just a little bit of sympathetic eyeliner. uh so he moved to New York and that was the end of that band.
We continued without him for a few years, uh, but he and I stayed friends, obviously.
And you were just holding the microphone and singing in that band. You weren't playing bass and singing.
No, I was playing guitar.
Oh,
So I was playing guitar and singing. He was playing guitar and singing, and so that was kind of our thing. Was like two singers, two guitar players. He was a far better lead player than I was. Um, and then it's Philadelphia. It's not New York or LA. So when we couldn't find a bass player, I'd switch to bass. You know, which I really enjoyed. And so I always kind of had that attitude of like I'll play anything to be in the right band,
right.
and to write songs. So it was always about the songwriting and the band.
Well, that's the right attitude.
I think so.
Yeah. So did you end up going to did you ever live in LA?
No.
No, I never did either. You ever consider it?
Eh, oh, dude. I mean, I've been supposed to move to LA so many times, man. I was gonna move uh a few years ago, and I ended up getting the Joan Jett gig. Like right when I landed that gig, I was in the process of moving to LA, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not doing that. Um, and then again, a couple years ago, um, I was gonna go, and two things happened. One, my wife got a gig at Chanel, so that
Yeah.
was the first time that I was like, all right, well, now instead of the world revolving around me, for once, I'm letting someone else. But I ended up getting this,
Right.
so so it made sense once again to stay. And it's so crazy. Like I guess now, like I don't think I'd want to. I don't know. There's a lot that I feel like people shit on LA unfairly a lot of times.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, it seems like now is not really the best time to be there. So
Vegas seems like it might be okay, but they're going to run out of water, man. They're going to be
yeah,
pretty thirsty soon.
yep.
I don't want
They
to be.
can't even melt snow for water.
That's right. You know, that's right, man. Um, so did you follow Christian to the city?
No, he went up there and then went to LA. So he went to New York, and I think that's where he started playing with Dee Dee Ramone. But maybe that was when he moved to LA.
I think it was when he got to LA.
Okay, yeah. He ended up making the trip out to LA, and back then it's kind of funny how you would think of things like, you know, Jerry, who's moving to LA? Yeah. You think he's going to make it? And make it didn't even mean
Right.
you're thinking like less than zero.
Right.
Um it's like, dude, fucking people move to LA every day and people are fine. It's not, but you have this idea that you're going to get eaten. The city's going to eat you. Um and I remember that being like, "Did you hear Christian's moving to LA? He ain't going to make it. He'll be back."
I mean, I think New York is gnarlier than LA, especially back then.
Yeah, probably back then. I don't think now. I think now it's totally the opposite. Like LA's really gnarly. I think that's kind of what I like about it in a way. It's like, in New York, the days of the, transvestite on rollerblades with a cupid bow,
Right.
streaming down the subway platform. That doesn't happen anymore.
Exactly.
Or the overabundance of homeless people. And I'm not making a correlation between those two, but that edginess though.
Right.
And you still do see that in LA,
Oh,
you
you
know?
see gnarlier shit than that on the like you see a lot of gnarly shit on the West Coast, especially with homeless and mental health issues.
Skid Row right now. I mean, dude, I started to when I started playing with Joan, I got really into photography. And my friend Jeremy, who's in a fantastic band called The Blessings, um, what I used to do is when we would go out and do shows with Joan, I would stay behind for a few days, rent a car, and we would go drive around and do photography. And dude, I'm telling you, the when I first started doing that, yeah, there were homeless people around. And I remember within 5 years, like I would get off the exit ramp to his house. So that was a location that I knew. And I never remembered there being homeless people there. He's out in Pasadena.
Right.
And I remember like within 4 or 5 years there being the whole encampments like right at the exit ramp to his house. And I've never seen a change like that so quickly.
Yeah, I don't know how we got some fixing to do.
Yeah,
A lot
I
of
agree.
fixing to do. Let's get back on track. This because we could get down a rabbit hole pretty quick here.
Sure.
Uh, so you're still in Philly at this point.
Yes.
Christian has gone off to LA and he's going to be back. He's not going to make it.
That city's gonna eat him alive.
Right.
It's gonna chew him up and spit him out.
Uh, what do you do? Are you have you been promoted to assistant manager of the rock and roll clothing store yet?
No, I left there and I moved back out of Philadelphia to my mom's house. My thought was that, well, this way it'll give me more money and time to, if I don't have to pay rent, I can spend more money on the band. But really, it was just an excuse to not have the responsibilities of paying rent and partying more.
Right.
Um, and uh, I worked in a warehouse and just dead end shit, collected unemployment as frequently as I could.
Yeah, that's a drag.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
were
you
you
don't know it at the
actively playing
time.
music?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was I was still, yeah, up until a point, uh when I just it was like it was time for us to start writing it was very clear that the band wasn't going anywhere, and something needed to change in the band. Like I was looking at it like, well, something needs to change in the band. We need to write better songs, we need to get a better manager, we need all those things. And really it was me. And so, like, when I was trying to delegate my own advice and I couldn't carry it out, that was like, yeah, this lifestyle's not working for me, you know.
So all the way back then you got sober then?
Yeah, I've been sober 22 years.
So this is 1998.
Yes.
What happens between 1993 and 1998? That's a string of warehouse jobs and
Yeah.
the band,
Yeah.
same band minus Christian.
Yes. Hmm.
And so you're just slugging
It's
it
so
out.
crazy. Like when I think of it in that way, like it didn't seem like it was that much time, but it
Well,
was,
because you were young.
Yeah, I was
Everything
young.
goes slower when you're young, right?
Yeah.
And when we get as you get old, everything goes fucking fast as shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh wow, so 1998 you get sober. Good for you.
Yeah.
It took me a lot. I mean, I had a bunch of false starts along the way, but
Hmm.
it took me quite a bit longer to get it together. Um how was that received by your friends? I can't imagine it wasn't exactly in vogue. It was, like people weren't
Yeah.
super health conscious in the 90s in the rock world. Maybe some indie rockers were, but not in the worlds that we circulate in.
No.
How was that something were you able to talk to anyone of your peers about it, or were you just like off doing your thing and then working on music when you could?
Well, my dad had gotten sober uh years before. So I would go to Alateen meetings. My mom would go to Al Anon, stuff like that. So the seed was planted um, in my head. And at the, I mean, when it really came down to my bottom, I had a job that um, a friend of mine who was like another guy in the bands, he had told me, he's like, "Hey, dude, I got this really great job. These people, I think they were a family of lawyers, like a husband and wife lawyer thing, and they bought what was an old, not Catholic school, like school of some kind, and that was their house. So it was this massive, massive, like, dude, I mean, like 12 bedroom house, and they wanted the whole thing renovated. And my friend bullshitted his way into the job, saying that he could, do all the renovation work, but basically all we could do was paint.
Right.
And it was such a cake job. It was like we were getting paid like 25 an hour or something, cash under the
90s,
table.
that's for you kids
Yeah.
listening, that was a lot of money in the 90s.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not too bad if it was cash now.
Right.
But and we could show up when we wanted and leave when we wanted. We just wrote down at the end of the week what our hours were, turned it in, and they wrote us a check. And um I'll never forget, like, my buddy was getting there at like 10, and he was cutting out at like 4:30, taking like a nice lunch, and I was getting there at like 11:30 and like leaving at like, you know, 4,
Right.
and it was just apparent. Like I was just looking at him and I'm like, he's not killing himself and he's doing all right. You know what I mean? You know, he's acting like a functioning musician. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like he's not getting here at 6 a.m. and cutting out at 7 p.m. Like he's rolling in at 10. You know, he's cutting out at 4. He's putting in a 6-hour day. Um, and I remember I was figuring out how much money I needed to party that week, what my bills were, and that was exactly the amount of hours I would work.
Right.
Nothing else.
Yeah, when you have that kind of when you have an addictive personality and you have the freedom or the option to dictate how much you work and you're not on a rigid schedule. Like, I mean, I had
Yeah,
almost the exact same shit going on.
yeah. And I remember watching him, and he was always kind of like grateful for the work, and I was hungover, and I remember he was dropping AA slogans, and I was like, "Fuck!" And I knew the AA slogans from my family, and I went out on one weekend bender that turned into a week-long bender, and and eventually, like the gig was up. Like my bandmates, my fiance at the time, my mom. Basically what happened was I went out on a bender. I went out to play a show on I think a Wednesday or a Thursday, and didn't resurface until that Monday. And at one point through the bender, my car had run out of gas at the base of a bridge, and I just left it there. I just called up some stripper chick I knew and was like, "Hey, come pick me up. I ran out of gas," and then just continued to rage on. And when I went to go back and get my car, um, it was gone. So I called home and I'm like, "Hey, has anybody seen my car?" And everybody was freaking out because they thought I'd committed suicide. Because
Oh, because your
if a
car
car's
was at
abandoned
the
at the base
bridge.
of a bridge,
They didn't think to check the tank.
I guess not.
That's
Or
awful,
yeah,
man.
exactly.
That is fucking
What's that?
awful.
Yeah, and that was my wake up call. So I was like, all right, I'm done.
Right. And boom. Did you go to treatment or anything?
I didn't, and in hindsight, I kind of wish that I had, but um, I just really dove into uh, the program. I
Yeah.
really dove in and got a sponsor, and life started to improve very quickly.
Amazing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of the people that I idolized, the Johnny Thunders and the Iggy Pops and the, uh, those types, you know, everyone puts them on a pedestal, but you got to remember, like, when you look at those last videos of Johnny Thunders, he wasn't doing so good. And when he was doing good, that was kind of before the disease overtook them, you know?
Right.
And people forget that a lot. Like, you know, yeah, Iggy was a fucking lunatic, sure. And then he put out some bad records, you know?
He's put I mean, he puts some good ones out still.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, agreed. There's some stuff that, not so much.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at any of those type of tragic artist type, mostly the output that they put out right before they passed wasn't that great, so.
Right.
But that's the way I was like, I wanted to be Johnny Thunders or whoever, and wear that stuff on my sleeve.
Yeah,
I
didn't
still like Johnny
live
Thunders.
to see 40. Probably didn't think you'd live to see 30, right?
No.
I mean, you were 28.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember that was part of it too. Was like, well, I didn't die. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. I'm past 27. Objective not reached.
Congratulations.
Fuck that up.
So you said things begin to improve quickly. How quickly before you start, before you get yourself into some touring bands and start to see some action?
When I was, well, hold on, let me plug in my laptop here. Hold on a second.
Sure.
Running out of battery. Excuse me. All right, there we go. Right before I hit my bottom, I'd gone to the CMJ convention,
Yeah.
and I met a guy named Edsel, and he said, "Hey, I'm putting together a band. You look cool. You want to be in it?" And I was like, "No, my band's going to be signed and rich and I don't need you and whatever." And he's like, "Well, you got to. I like your attitude, but you know." And and he said, "Yeah, well, I'm going to put together a band, and if we don't get signed in 6 shows, I'm going to if we don't get a record deal in 6 shows, I'm going to break the band up because I don't want to be one of these loser bands playing the New York scene for like 5 years and not getting a record deal or whatever." And I remember that kind of scaring me because I remember thinking like, I've been playing the same places for 5 years now,
Right.
and it's not going anywhere. And I met him there, and we stayed in touch. And he ended up putting together this band called Dope. And at their 7th show, they got their record deal with Sony, and they started to record the record. It was very obvious that the bass player that they had wasn't working out, and he said, he's like, "Look, you know, the guy that we had isn't working out. You helped me pick the guys that are in the band. You've kind of always been around and a part of it. You know, do you want to do it?" And I went up and I auditioned and I got the gig, and that was that.
How did
So
the
yeah, that's
audition
what I
go?
mean. Like when things got better really quick, it was like I had a I was so busy trying to do things my way, right?
Right.
And so this is kind of a crazy story. So after I after I was sober for like I don't want to say it was like 60 days, 90 days, something like that. I kind of decided on my own. I was like, well, I want to cut my hair and get a job, right? And I cut my hair and I got a job, and I was like, I didn't want to cut my hair and get a job. Like I found out really quickly that wasn't what I wanted to do. But
Right.
and nobody in recovery told me I had to do that. You know what I mean? Like it was something I thought on my own. And I got this job working at this place that sold military grade components to India, right? So I applied for a shipping and receiving job, sent in a bullshit resume. They hired me. I started working there. And very quickly, they're like, "Okay, so do you know what this is? This is called a letter of credit." And I'm like, "I don't know what that is." And they're like, "So basically, what happens is the government of India is going to send us these letters of credit, and they're issued for dollar amounts that have multiple zeros, like more zeros than I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "Once this comes in and we get the part in, you ship it out, and then you got to fill out the paperwork and turn it back in with all the tracking numbers and everything so that we can get all that money." So basically, for those that don't know, a letter of credit is basically if you're buying something very expensive overseas, the money goes into a third party bank. There's a contract issued saying that when the product is shipped, that the funds are released to you.
Right.
See, I never did that. I never red letters of credit. I never did anything like that.
Did you fuck
So,
any of them up and get you guys screwed out of some money?
what's that?
Did you fuck any of them up and screw the company out of money
Oh, I very
accidentally?
easily could have. Yeah, I very easily could have. But one day, the woman who ran the place, like, it was clear my heart wasn't in it, and she was like this woman that she was like a Russian Jew that escaped the concentration camps,
Jesus.
and she said to me one day, she said, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Well, I need a job." She's like, "But what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I want to play music." And she's like, "So go play music." And I'm like, "It's not that easy." And she's like, "No, it is that easy. Go do it." And I'm like, "No, but you don't understand." She's like, "No, you don't understand. It is that easy. Go find something. Go do something that has to do with music. Get on your way. Get on your path. You can do it. You just got to stop trying to do it your way and open up your mind." And it clicked. And I remember, like, I bought it was called the East Coast Rocker and Backstage magazine, like all these, anything that had auditions in it, and I auditioned for anything and everything. I auditioned for studio assistant jobs. I auditioned to be a singer in the musical Rent. Um,
Really?
anything, anything I could do, I tried. And at one of the auditions, I met one of the guys from Dope's girlfriend was there. She's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I just want to play music." And she's like, "All right, cool." So she told them that they saw me in an audition, and they're like, "Well, duh, we should bring him into the band." So
You fucking auditioned for Rent?
yeah,
Uh, that's pretty ballsy.
I would do anything. I wanted to play
And
music.
you had no theater experience,
I mean, I was in plays when I was a kid, but no, not
right?
really.
You're just like, fuck it. That's pretty
Yeah,
ballsy. You have to, I mean, I don't have, I don't have brass balls like that now.
dude, you want to talk about even ballsier? And in hindsight, it's like knowing what I know now. I auditioned singing "Me and Bobby McGee" by Janis Joplin a cappella.
Really?
That might be why I didn't get it, but
Right.
yeah.
How do you, how do you think it went now? I mean, if you remove yourself from the situation, just try to remember it
It,
purely for what it was.
it'd be pretty funny because like I was still kind of country boy, and like knowing the difference between city people and people not from the city
Right.
now, like she must have just been like it would have been funny to have a hidden camera on that moment.
Right. Wow. You know, they were probably filming.
Probably got it somewhere. Yeah.
Right. Oh man, that is fucking rich. That's nuts. So you were
Yeah.
just going, how do you even hear about that?
Like I said, I any industry magazines that I could find, I would, comb through them and figure anything out that I could.
That's amazing. And so
I just
what
didn't
about
want to work, doing this military components to India shit. Sketchy as hell.
right. And you know, as we all learn, like you have to have other incomes if you're going to be a musician. It's got
Sure.
to come from somewhere because it's not always rolling field. You're not always shitting in high cotton, as they say,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Totally.
So you quit that job or were you just
Yeah. Yeah. I ended up quitting. They might have let me go actually, because she was like cool enough to let me go, if that makes any sense. I don't remember how we parted ways, but interestingly, um, knowing, you know, so God, like 10 years later, I was I went to open a bank account at a bank that I never had an account at before, right? And so I talked to the branch manager or whoever, and they're like, "Oh, welcome back." And I'm like, "I don't think I've ever had an account with you before." And they're like, "Oh yeah, you definitely did. Like, around 1998." I'm like, No, no, I don't think so. And he's like, yeah, it was right here. It was right in Exton, PA. And then I was like, but why would I open a bank account in Exton, PA? That was like the next town over.
Right.
None of this makes any sense to me. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And I was like, things are a little foggy from that time. And so as I'm going through the process, finally I go, back to that thing about me having an account before. Do you have any information on that? And they're like, he's like, well, I erased everything. He's like, except for here's a phone number. And I'm like, I've never had that phone number. I'm like, this is so weird. He's like, well, that's what you put down. And I'm like, so I take it with me, call it. The phone number was that office.
Wow.
And the other thing that was weird too is that they had told me I opened the bank account for one day and then shut it immediately the next day. So let's think of it this way. These guys are selling military components to India. They hire a guy who has no idea what he's doing. Well, why is that? Because I'm an easy guy to throw under the carpet, right?
Do you
Something goes
think
bad.
do you think that they stuck some money in there and did some funny shit and huh?
That's absolutely what I think.
Well, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's
Funny, ha ha.
that's pretty sketchy. I mean, here we are telling the tale, but so all's well. But
Yeah.
I suppose could have gone pretty sour.
Yeah. I mean, now that I look back at it, I'm like, they knew what they were doing by hiring an idiot. Um, and you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's not a job I should have had.
Right.
And I know that they know that.
Sure.
But hey, man,
So you get the gig in Dope and the record's already made?
it was written. It was written.
Got it.
They were recording it so I moved up there. They were recording, and I was learning the set because they were still even unsure of what songs were going to make the record. So I had to learn like 25 songs or whatever it was. Um, so I was in the middle of learning all of them, and I would go by the studio um, in the daytime for like an hour or two, but I didn't really play much on that first record at all. And I was okay with that. Like I was very aware of like, all right, well, the wheels are in progress, and
Right.
um, I was just happy to be there. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
And so you're like, I'm in a major label band. What the fuck do I care?
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Look, mom, I
Yeah,
made
yeah.
uh how long before you guys go and what was your first gig with them like?
The first gig with them was awkward because it was our first show after we had gotten signed. And so like booking agents were there, labels were there, like all it was
Showcase.
basically another showcase.
Right.
What's that?
Secondary
So
show.
so basically it was kind of like what's that? What's that?
We just basically jinx you owe me a coked.
Oh, okay, okay. Um, it was basically like another industry showcase, and we had a lot of sound problems and technical problems, and the show didn't go great. But and I think that part of it too was that that band was really interesting in that what happened was the singer of the band was a drug dealer in New York. He took his money and invested it in the band. And what he did was he paid for a website. This was before any bands had websites,
Right.
let alone an unsigned band. Paid for a website, did a photo shoot where everybody on the band was like on a stage. But what he did was he got everybody who wasn't in the individual picture to be like fake audience, like hands up in the air and shit.
Yeah.
That was just the other guys in the band. You know what I mean? You could just see the silhouettes. Um, and and then sampler cassettes. Nobody did sampler cassettes yet. This was
Right.
like one of the first bands to do sampler cassettes, and got hot girls to hand out sampler cassettes at Rob Zombie shows, Marilyn Manson shows, And, you know, the kids would look at it and be like, I don't even think Marilyn Manson's got a website yet, but these guys got a website? Like, we looked like a signed band, and kids lost their mind. The very first show that the band ever did sold out like immediately, just off of the hype.
Right.
And then what happened was when the band went in the studio, you know, nobody told us that we had to record a single. You know, like we were an angry
Yeah.
ministry type band. And all of a sudden they're like, so what's the single? And it's like, what's the single? And it's like, you know, the song that gets played on the radio, the popular one, the audience friendly song. Like, nobody told us we had to do that. And so I think what happened when we did that first show was, you know, we had a record deal that was a joint venture between Flip, which was under the Interscope umbrella, and Sony, which was Sony, and they had to match each other dollar for dollar. So it was a great record deal. It was a really, really good record deal. And Jordan Schur, who had Flip Records, had vested interest in us. He signed us.
Right.
So he was spending a lot of Interscope money on us that Sony had to match. And I think when we did the showcase, they were like, so we just had this band in Quad Studios, and, you know, where Mariah Carey was just at, like, we were in this Quad Studios. It was like five grand a day or something like that.
Right.
And they were like, why did we have wait? And I think that was, I think people got cold feet. You know what I mean? But Jordan was such a headstrong person and had such strong personality, our A&R guy, that he was like, fuck you guys. You guys know what they're doing. We're going to the net with it, you know.
What was the single?
Everything Sucks. Pig Society. I think Pig Society was the first one, which isn't a catchy little number. And then Everything Sucks ended up being like the one that we shot a video for, and all that.
Yeah. And at this point, you're playing shows around New York. Have you guys gone on tour yet?
We went on tour right after that. The first tour we did was with the band Orgy.
Oh yeah.
And then after that, we jumped on tour with Fear Factory and Static X. And basically, we were on tour for 2 years. And I mean, dude, I remember rolling through New York on tour, and it being the change of seasons, and being like, all right, I got to go home with my suitcase, pack winter clothes, and come right back. Like, I wasn't home
Right.
for months and months and months.
Touring like that will make you a machine of a band, or it will break you, though.
Absolutely
one or the other. Sometimes both.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But we were lucky, man. Like, one thing I'll say about that band is that we never took for granted the situation that we were in. We were very aware that, like, hey man, like, now, and I think that the difference between the two is that if you take the attitude that, like, okay, now's when the hard work begins.
Right.
And you've seen it, dude. It's like other bands take the attitude of, we've made it. Now everybody's going to take care of everything.
Order my custom road cases.
Yep. Well, we did that too, but
I'll
never forget. We had these road cases built, and someone, I don't want to name any names because I'm still friends with the singer Edsel from the band, so I won't name names. But when we had the road cases made, we had this like refrigerator case that had 3 heads in it, 3 Marshall heads, and like all this rack space. And when I got the price quote, he's like, "Oh, they're too expensive. We don't need all those handles on the cases." And I'll never forget, we roll up to like the first tour date, and we wheel the case up to the stage, and like, well, how do we get it up here? And we're like, push it up a ramp, and they're like, it's not a ramp. And we're like, I don't know. I'm like, where are the handles? This thing was bigger than a refrigerator and heavier than a refrigerator, and
Right.
Two handle, like one handle on each side.
Right. Up high.
And then the funnier thing yet was that like then someone, like we were using BB Sonic maximizers,
Sure.
DBX compressors and gates, and they all had two sides to them. And so like automatically, like one of the guys from the headline band like looks at our rig. It's like, why do you guys have all that stuff? It's like, well, we need a backup for everything. He's like, yeah, but you realize that like that BB Sonic maximizer and that gate has like two sides to it. So like you don't need three of them. You need like one and a half. Like,
You're like,
oh.
yeah, that's what you think, man. That's just like your opinion. uh you still roll with some rack stuff though, yeah?
It depends on the gig.
Right.
I honestly, the big rack that I do have right now, I didn't pay for it. It was told that the band decided that that's what they wanted, so that's what they built. But
Right.
honestly, there's a gig that I'm supposed to do later in this year, and dude, I got a two-space rack and a pedal board. That's it. And honestly, I could probably do it with a pedal board.
Right. What is the and use a backline amp, or do you use a modeler on your pedal board?
Modeler on the pedal board, everything's in ears.
Right.
Don't need a cabinet, don't need a power amp.
What modeler are you using now?
I use Positive Grid
Uh-huh. You like it?
bias amp. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it because one feature that it had. Well, first of all, with the software, all the software looks like amps.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I love that. So that's very familiar to me. And then when I download it onto the hardware, it looks like an amp. Like it's got knobs. It's got
Some
things to
bullshit
turn.
user interface.
Yeah, like it's not like when I look at those fractals, I'm like, dude, I can't help you with like I don't know what to do. I was just doing something with somebody who had a Helix and they needed help with it, and I'm like, I can't help you, man. There's no knobs or dials.
Right.
Sorry. And the other thing I like about the bias amp, the positive grids, is that on the volume knob, it's got this really cool feature where if you push it in, it turns up the volume on the DI. If you pull it out, it turns up the volume on if you're playing through a cabinet.
Oh yeah.
So what I do is I run my ears through the DI, and then the other output is going into another DI box or into a speaker cabinet. We get our stage volume, and if I need turned up or turned down a little bit, I can just turn up that DI, and it doesn't affect everybody else's mixes.
Right. How about that?
How about that?
You don't have to go digging through a menu or whatever. That's nice.
No, yeah.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
And I don't have to like wave to a sound guy, because
Right.
what is it you really are probably going to want? You're probably going to want to hear yourself more or less of yourself. So I can at least dictate that.
Right. It's awesome. So you've had that gig for 23 years.
Yeah, off and on. Yeah.
That's that's a long ass time to have a job.
Yeah. Well, I quit after the second record to play in the Murderdolls.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was like 6 or 7 years that I wasn't in the band.
Got it.
And even at this point, it is the singer's band, and we always call it more of a fraternity, where it's like I'm like the first string guy, and so if a tour comes up, I get the call, and I almost like a union thing, like
Right.
like I get the call first. If I can do it, I'm the first guy. If I can't do it, there's another guy that can do it. So we've got like other guys that play in other bands too that can fill in. So
Right.
yeah.
can you talk about the stuff that you were supposed to do this last year, or is that a no? We've talked about it before, but
Well, I mean, I was supposed to. Man, I had such a busy year last year lined up.
I know.
Um, I had stuff with Dope booked. I had stuff with another legendary New York City hardcore band. I was supposed to do stuff with them, and that didn't work out. Which I was really looking forward to because I really liked that band,
Yeah,
and it would have worked out perfectly because their dates, like I would have gone over to Europe with Dope, and then when their dates were done, I was just like literally we were
there.
playing different days on a festival, and I would have been like playing with Dope on Saturday, playing with the other band on Sunday, and then I would have started with them, and it would have just been filling in. But
Just move your bag to the
still,
other
and it,
bus, right?
yeah, yeah, and the band had great songs and stuff like that. I was really looking forward to it. So yeah, so
Were you all the way down the rabbit hole of learning all the tunes and everything? Was it that? Were you that far in?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
Have
that's
you
all right.
read
Like I
the
mean,
whole
I knew
catalog?
basically they had someone in the band that had health issues, and so they didn't want to make it public knowledge, and still don't want to, and that's super cool. It was more like this guy's got health issues, and these are where there's a pocket that he won't be able to make it or may not be able to make it. So it was never a guaranteed thing.
Right.
So and that was okay, and now that guy's health has improved and stuff like that. So
Oh, good. Uh, have you focused most all of your energy on coffee stuff this year, or have you recorded any music of your own?
no, I'm just starting to record now, to be honest with you. Yeah, I was, I was really, man, I was fucking depressed in hindsight, I mean,
A fucking year, man.
be, yeah, yeah, and being a musician is such a part of our identity, and little ego strokes here or there, and that's what I did to bring money into my home, and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that was a big rug pull this year.
yeah,
Big rug pull.
and I felt like I was like, well, why even bother writing songs? Like I barely played, you know.
I don't think anyone believed it was going to last this long
I felt like it was
from the very beginning.
kind of because I was in Taiwan when this thing broke out.
Right. I forget.
So 1 month before it hit here, I was in Taiwan watching TV where where they were filling up shipping containers full of dead bodies. I saw it. I mean, I didn't see it in person, but it was on TV there, and people in Taiwan were like, "This is really bad," and wearing face masks and taking temperatures and hand sanitizer. But I was watching the news and seeing them just carry bodies out in storage containers. I didn't. I mean, I thought it was going to be more like we would, things would turn up by late fall, winter. We would see things change.
Right.
But man, like when honestly, when it got to be like the middle of summer this past year, I don't think anybody, I think everybody was like, no, this is fucked.
Right. So the music that you're working on now, are
Mhm.
you just sort of like just getting your toe in the pool, or are you like working on songs in earnest? Like, are you, and what are the songs for?
I'm working on songs for another I'm working on songs for another artist that I'm going to be playing with next year, and if he doesn't like them, then I'm going to put them out on my own because I'm really having a good time with them. And
Mhm.
I'm also working on a song, uh, a coffee song.
Oh, rad.
So I want to put out a song through my coffee company, and it's been a lot of fun. basically my idea was this, like when we started the coffee company and we started putting videos on TikTok, right? Because you got to do TikTok now. You got to do the ticking and the talking.
That's what I
Um,
hear.
and I would try to put music to it, and I would put in coffee. There was no songs,
Right.
right? So what I did was I wrote a song where it has a 15-second verse, a 15-second pre-chorus, 15-second chorus, does the same thing again, and the intro is like arena rock. The verse is like regular corporate. The bridge is like alt ukulele music, and then the outro is thrash metal.
And the whole thing is
And all
to
the
a guy
lyrics
in
are
the
about
club.
drinking coffee.
Great.
So my logic is that this way, when I upload it to get it uploaded to TikTok, if you want a song that's about angry coffee drinking, you got to upload the Catfight Coffee song. If you're a little sensitive, bunny petting ukulele girl, I
Right.
got that part of the song.
Yeah.
And it
You-
sounds totally bipolar, which I love. Like there's this band from England called the Wild Hearts that I love,
yeah.
and he kind of writes songs like that are just like, and you never know where they're going to take you. And I always love that. So I had a reason to write a song that did this.
Right. Oh, that's great. Can the the songs that you're working on with another person, is this something you can't talk about yet? Be public
Yeah, I can't
yet?
talk about it.
All right, that's all right. Um,
It's frustrating. There's so many things that I hope are going to happen this year that I can't talk about. Can't
that's the
talk about any
way
of it.
the
So
cookie
much stuff.
crumbles, man. Yeah, that's
What's
the way
that?
the cookie crumbles. That's it. Um, let's talk about Catfight.
Woohoo!
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Um, so that's are you a year in?
just about
Almost a
coming
year,
up on a
right?
year. Hmm.
So right after, because we're at the 1 year mark of when everyone went from laughing about COVID to taking it seriously,
Yeah,
right? Where it's
yeah,
like, I mean, I was laughing about it until they took shows away. I was like, oh, this is just going to be another SARS or whatever,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then the shows went away, and it was like, oh, this is serious. How much longer after that? Do you remember the day you launched?
Pretty much. I remember it would have been in March, and I was doing a gallery show for my photography, and I I'd had another coffee company, and it was abundantly clear that it was not working out between us. And my wife and I were like, let's start another company. And I remember we were in the car, and and part of it was like, well, let's make them an offer to buy them out, and if that doesn't work, let's have our backup plan in place. And I remember us coming up with a name, and then I remember, I wish I could remember specifically what happened, but there was one day where it was like, okay, all work is closed, all schools are closed, all like when everything closed, which would have been April, I think,
Right.
April or first week of May, and I remember thinking, I remember waking up, and my wife and I said it would be insensitive for us to start a company right now because clearly I'm going to have to pitch it to my fans, and my fans are regular people, and they're having a hard time, and that wouldn't be that would be insensitive. And then after a week, I remember I woke up and I was like, I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you know, coffee brings normalcy to people's lives. It brings them stability. It makes them feel like they're still doing their routine. And
Part of
if I have something cool to
daily
offer,
ritual.
then what's that? The
It's part of
ritual, exactly. And if I and am I good at what I do? Is my coffee good? Well, fuck yeah, it is. So it's not like I'm trying to shill some kind of garbage.
right.
Fucking get on the field, man. So that's what we did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh Do you think that having the time, the lack of distraction and more time to focus, and having a project to focus on probably was good for your mental health,
Yes,
right? For sure.
yes, yes.
But it must have been, a blessing in disguise, I guess. What do we call that? We don't call it a blessing in disguise, but because it's not a fucking blessing, but it probably was good for the energy that you put into the company.
Yeah, yeah. It was good that it gave me something to focus on. One of the things I didn't expect at all was, I started when I had my old company. I was always very conscious and courteous to my business partners about me not being the face of the company, because I felt like it shouldn't just be me. But now that this was my company, I could be the face of the company.
Sure.
And I gotta tell you, dude, I didn't realize how much I would enjoy the social interaction between our customers and us. So we do like a lot of live streaming, and I love that. And I didn't realize how good it would make me feel. Like the first time we did like some company live streaming stuff, I thought, okay, like this is something that we should do as a company, And I got done, and I was in such a good mood, and I was like, man, I miss people. I miss that hanging out with people and locker room jokes and stuff like that. And it is just such a blessing. Saved my ass for sure.
I didn't do a live stream for the longest time. I think I did my first live stream in December or January or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to go on here and, who knows what I'll do. I think I ended up being on for an hour and a half,
Mm,
which is ridiculous. But it's funny because people will come and go, and it's like a changing conversation. It's not like a talk show or something.
yeah,
It's crazy. But
yeah,
what a crazy world it's evolved into.
yeah. And it's. I mean, the our crew, the Catfight crew that we have. I mean, it's really turned into this great community where I've seen people. Like it's funny. I'll be watching the names in the stream, and somebody will pop in that hasn't been in before, and everybody be like, "Oh, hey, Carl, hey, I'm Stephanie, or
Right. Oh,
and I'm
that's
like,
great.
man, that's so cool.
What's what's the big picture plan for Catfight? Do you have like a master plan? Do you have like do you want to have retail?
I want the company to grow big enough that I can buy a Dodge Challenger, and
But
that's about
new
it.
or vintage?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
maybe one of each. Okay.
All right.
No, I mean, I don't. I read the Howard Schultz book, and for those that don't know, he's the guy that started Starbucks, and he was like, I want to have locations in every state. I mean, that's what he says now. Maybe he didn't really think that way, but according to him, he had a global plan in mind.
Right.
I don't. I don't want to be that big.
Right.
The reason being, uh, I like the quality and the service that I can give to the people that we have, and that means more to me. I mean, you know, God, I hate to say it, but how much money do you need? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I said, I'd like to have a Dodge Challenger. I'm 50 years old. I should have my midlife crisis car. You know, um, I just want to have enough money to not have to worry about money, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Um, and that's how big I want the company to be. I just want the company to be big enough. I had a really interesting meeting with a coffee shop owner in Taiwan, and this was just like a epiphany. And his dude, if you ever come to Taiwan, this dude is baller. Like he is next level. And I went to his shop, and he recognized me from music and stuff like that. And we got to talking, and then he's like, "Well," and we started talking about Taiwanese coffee, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to a plantation this weekend. Do your wife? Does your wife? Do your wife? would you guys like to join me? I was
Right.
like, yeah, cool. So we did, and he was there with a bunch of his employees, and basically what it was educating farmers in Taiwan who really didn't know what they were doing. And we sorted cherries, we picked off the trees and looked at the differences between different cherries, and showing them what drying beds should be like and everything. And so when we got done, my wife and I have talked about opening a coffee shop in Taiwan. And I was like, well, listen, I'm like, one of the things that we've toyed with is the idea of franchising. I'm like, would you, think about doing a franchise? He's like, nope. I'm like, yeah, seriously? He's like, nope, I got 2 locations and that's all I want. I'm like, why? And he's like, have you ever had a bad experience at my shop? I'm like, never. He's like, have you ever had a bad coffee at my shop? Never. Have you ever had a bad espresso at my shop? Never. That's why.
Right.
And he was like, that means more to me than having 5, 6, 7 locations. And I was like, you know what? That's the guy I want to be. So
That's a good approach. That's a
yeah,
uncommon approach as well.
yeah. And
He's
and
not,
it was like,
you know, he wasn't asking what's the
what's that?
single. He's not he's not looking for a radio single,
No.
is he?
Yeah. But if when you think about it though, it is sort of a punk rock approach to things though. It's like Ian MacKaye wasn't thinking about, I want to play Madison Square Garden.
Right.
And no doubt that guy's successful, you know.
He never has he?
I mean, Waiting Room maybe, but
I
that's
never
only
did.
become more
You have.
popular over time, I
You
think.
played Madison Square Garden. That and what was that like?
You know, um, it was surreal.
Right.
I was very aware that the show was about the fans of the band, and it was about my supporting role to do good for the guys that I was playing for so that they could have their moment.
Yeah.
And I had to be really cool, you know,
Sure.
and not get glassy eyed. And they say that for comedians, like after they play Saturday Night Live, there's like a little bit of a letdown because it's like, I did Saturday Night Live, like what else
You
is
know
there?
what?
And I had that same experience. Like I was like, okay, I played Madison Square Garden,
And
and
now
now I'm
I'm on
back
the
at my
train
apartment
home.
and I got to do the dishes.
Right.
you know, uh, but playing the arena in Philly, that makes my heart swell. So that brought it home because I
that
felt
was
like that
almost
one was for me.
that was almost bigger.
Yes, for me.
Am I remembering this right? Was that on your birthday also?
Yeah, that was like one of those weird
It was, right?
universal moments where it was like, are we really playing the place where I saw my very first concert on my birthday?
That's pretty rad.
Do you know how many people can say that they've done that?
I can't.
I don't know anybody that, like, even like top dog guys. It's not like they can schedule where the show's going to be on their birthday, you
Right.
know.
Uh,
But that happened.
that's pretty awesome.
It is.
Are your folks still around?
Yes, they are.
Did they come to the show?
My dad came to the garden show, and my mom didn't because she was just concerned about her health. But I
Yeah.
had a lot of other family there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Um, your dad's still kicking strong. Your dad must, I mean, he must be in his 70s.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's awesome. He's on a keto diet, and you know, he's got a real lust for life. We're still different. He's still a Republican, Vietnam vet.
Sure.
guy. Uh, um, but it's funny because that was when he came to the garden show. There's this great photo of him and I think he's got his arm around me, or I got my arm around him, and we were just talking, and I'm like pointing at something. It was completely candid shot, and I have that, which is pretty
Uh,
awesome, you know. And it's like we still know not to talk politics, uh,
right.
but he'll tell me when he sees T-shirts of bands I've been in, like, yeah, I was at a rest stop the other day, and a guy was there with a Murderdolls shirt, and I walked up to him and said, "Do you know who Acey Slade is? That's my son." And he always asks for like guitar picks because he gives out my guitar picks everywhere.
Really?
Yeah,
That's, I mean, that's awesome, man.
yeah, yeah,
That is incredible.
yeah.
I fucking love that.
It wasn't always that way. I mean, there was
Of
years where we didn't
course not.
talk and shit like that, but you know,
Yeah, of course not. You were a fucking freak,
right?
right? I mean, I'm sure he thought so.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, probably a lot of people thought so if
Dude, I
they
mean,
just saw you on the street, right? I mean,
yeah, and I mean, look at it this way. Like when I was going into my teens, he would have been like in his 30s going into his 40s, I guess. And yeah, it might have been like 30, 35 actually. And like I think about me when I was 30, I didn't understand the world. I didn't understand anyone. I still don't. And yeah, let alone like, and they were going through a divorce when I was a teenager. And
right. Do you think that young people have a better understanding of the world than we did now?
hmm,
It's because of the internet, and because I feel like, yeah, I don't know. Like I
in
definitely
some
feel
ways,
like
I think that they're in some ways they're a bit more worldly, which I feel bad for them about. Like,
right,
I don't know that. Like, I remember the first time going to London, and I'd never seen London before. And the only thing I'd seen of London was pictures of Big Ben and
European vacation.
Parliament. What's that? Yeah, European.
European
Everything
vacation.
you see in European vacation, and then, but like, I don't know that young people have that same sense of awe. Like, it was like, oh my God, that's a double decker bus like I've seen in the movies. Now,
Right,
those kids are like, oh, that's like a double decker bus like I saw my friend on Instagram in front of. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. And I'm not knocking those Like, it's
right.
on one hand, I feel like that's why we have more, that's why we've been more progressive towards people of same sex relationships, transgender. I feel like peering into people's lives has really given us a better humanity in a lot of ways, and that's the good side to it. But I think on the downside, it's like I wonder if like young people would be underwhelmed visiting some place that you or I would go to and be like in awe of. I mean, maybe they would. I don't know.
Maybe they just simply wouldn't be as excited about visiting because such a wealth, there's such a deep well of photographs that they can look at.
Yeah.
I mean, especially imagine going through puberty now, or become like being a teenager over the last year and a half. What? Yeah, I just can't even imagine. Talk about I mean, it's hard enough being a teenager,
Yeah.
and then you're just focused on social media, right? You're
Yeah.
just like you're just locked in.
Watching you porn all day.
These fucking kids, man.
Thinking that's how the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, no shit. Right. I mean, I wonder what, like, yeah, I mean, who knows what that influence has had on youth.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm,
I kind of don't want to know. It's kind of makes me sad a little bit,
sure.
you know. That's a little, that that's a little dark and depressing.
Yeah.
This is taking a really weird turn.
I know.
This is terrible radio.
So let's talk about the Murderdolls. What was that song "Slit My Wrist" about?
uh I have to get going pretty quick.
Yeah, you didn't even talk. I didn't even show you any guitars. Or anything.
Yeah, we don't really do that, you know. Oh, did you see this?
Oh, dude, that's so sick.
That's the Marvin.
Yeah,
The one. It's so good.
that's the Keith. I was just talking to Keith about that. He's very grateful for the work that you've done with him, and um,
He's
getting him into the stores and stuff like that.
I'm just like, you know, between you and Christian, that's how I even became aware of him.
Yeah,
So thank you.
yeah,
But yeah, we got those going into a handful of stores.
cool.
Hopefully the relationships will blossom from there for him.
I got mine right here. Let me show off.
Oh yeah, let's see it. If for people who are listening, what I'm talking about is Keith over at Marvin Guitars. Yeah, that's real nice.
This is we call it the Thunderjet, and if you notice, it's got a color called futuristic. We call it futuristic black, but Gibson called it Brunswick blue. So there's like a blue glitter in there, but it's very subtle.
Yeah.
And the relicing, I don't know if you can see the checking on it,
Yeah,
but the
great.
checking is just awesome. Everybody who sees this guitar thinks they're like, oh, and it's funny because they always say like, oh, what is that, like a 67 or 68? And I'm like, well, first of all, Marvin Guitars only started 5 years ago, so just
Right.
trying to throw out random years that doesn't really work.
Did I see some glow in the dark tape on the neck there so that you for dark stage?
Mm-hmm.
Pro tip, kids.
And it's funny. It's like I don't even really need it anymore, but just out of habit, kind of.
It's better.
It's not like I'm ever going like.
It's better to have it than not need it. It's better to have it and not need it than not have it and need it.
Exactly. Now I'm going to show you something that I promise you has never made an appearance on Couch Riffs.
All right, scroll down. Let's see. Actually, I totally stole that. Right. Oh. Is this one of those Kramers? Oh, what is this? What do we have here?
This you were partially right. This is called Vaccaro.
Uh-huh.
And so yes, after Kramer, so Henry Vaccaro was part owner of Kramer. After they sold Kramer, they started Vaccaro because originally Kramer started with the aluminum headstock, and when he sold Kramer, he couldn't use that name anymore. He couldn't use that hockey stick style headstock, and so he's like, what, let me try that aluminum headstock. Trust, it's not just the headstock; it goes through the whole neck,
through the neck and through the body as well.
Yeah, and it's got a resin composite fingerboard too, and this thing just rips.
Yeah, no, I've been a big fan for a long time. Are you familiar with Electrical Guitar Company?
No.
Oh, dude, do yourself a favor and go check out Electrical Guitar Company. I had one. They custom built me a guitar years ago, a baritone, and it was fucking incredible. Plexiglass body, aluminum through neck. It was a bear. It was very hard to play. They told me when I gave spec'd it to them. And he said, this is going to be really hard to play. Are you sure? Why don't you let me do this? And I was like, no, I'm a big, strong man, like
Yeah.
an asshole.
I
And
won't play heavy guitars or basses anymore.
yeah, no, it's a terrible idea.
Yeah,
But
right after I started right after I got my Marvin and I picked it up and it was light, I was like, "Oh, I don't want that." And then I was like, "Wait, I can play this for an hour and a half and not be tired at all." And then went out and got SGs. Like my 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 Les Pauls are for the studio mostly, and that's it
right,
now. Now it's SGs and Marvins, and that's it.
yeah. Um, Electrical Guitar Company, go check them out. It's
Okay.
pretty great. Yeah. Um, but yeah, the Marvins, I'm super pumped on. I'm super jazzed
Yes.
on the Marvins. I've got a double cut, kind of like yours here, but it's got a P90 also up in the bridge. And I have a bass back there too, like a jazz bass.
Nice.
I'm super, super fucking pumped on.
He,
It's
he
been in a few videos.
he's making me a an SG style bass right now. So
Oh, that's amazing.
with and it's going to be a mid scale. It's a 32-inch.
Jealous.
Yeah.
I did play that sort of kind of like a Rick, almost like Rick shaped body bass that he's making at NAM last year when we did the Mississippi Queen
Ah,
video.
cool.
And it was great. It was, yeah, it's
Cool.
super good. He's doing great work out there, and he's got like he's working on his new shop now too. So that makes things he'll be a lot more productive. It's great.
Yes.
Well, listen, man,
Cool.
I gotta walk my dogs and eat dinner before it gets too late. Wake up early tomorrow.
Sure.
Drive a fucking truck.
Sure. All right,
Um,
brother.
I've had a great time seeing you. I haven't seen your face in for except for on my phone in forever.
I
Um,
know I haven't seen you since you got that porn stash.
yeah, well, this is relatively. My hair is also. It's pretty long. It's in a.
You got a man bun?
I have it tied back into a Gene Simmons right now.
Like I got mine's green. I got green hair now.
Yeah, no, it's by the time we uh walk among each other again,
Hmm.
I'm gonna I'm gonna be a long hair, like a proper long hair. I mean, my hair grows really fast, so
Nice.
it'll it's about to my shoulders already.
Nice.
So for better or worse.
Cool.
But I have some really
All right, homie.
fun. I have some fun shit that I'm going to start this summer, and I'll tell you about it next time we're on the phone.
Okay. Cool.
I'll want you to maybe come out and be involved if you're.
Okay. I might want to be involved.
I think you will.
Cool. All right,
Um,
dude.
thank you again. So, can you send me some photos? I know you must, guy like you must have some photos of yourself
Oh
on
yeah.
stage.
Yeah. I'll send you some photos. I'll send you some vampire love doll photos of
Yes,
Christian and I basically in drag.
I love this.
Yes.
The photos that you send, I'm gonna mangle, so it's just the background will be, you know what I do. You see the
Yep.
posts, yeah, awesome,
All right, dude.
dude. Good luck with in every single thing that you ever do, but um, I hope that you sell 100,000 bags of Catfight this year, and
Yeah, me too.
and you get that charger.
Yeah.
Yeah. What color?
Uh, honestly, as weird as this sounds, it looks really cool in purple. It does look cool in purple.
Like a like a glittery purple, like bowling ball purple.
Yeah.
That's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Purple is a good color that I've only recently started appreciating.
And yeah, purple. I like the purple ones, and I like the orange ones.
Yeah.
In fact, a friend of mine, one of our Catfight customers, he has an orange and black one that I'm
Oh,
like, I think that's the one I would want. Except I don't know enough about like the under the hood stuff. Like there's a whole community. I joined a Facebook club for Challenger aficionados, and I didn't realize how deep it went. You know,
Right.
it goes deep. There's a lot of different versions and mods and Hellcats and scat packs and blah blah blah. And I do know this: if I got one, I couldn't live with myself and own the basic model with just like the regular six. Like
Right.
a tech I had, he got one, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's so awesome!" And we went for a ride in it, and it was just the basic model, and I was like,
Right.
so if I were to get one, I'd have to go. It'd have to be somewhere at least in the mid range. I couldn't drive it around with the regular 6-cylinder.
Right. I had a Chrysler 300C,
Uh-huh.
which has got a Hemi in it, and it was fucking awesome.
Actually, funny story. And then I got to go. But when I rented a Challenger when I was out in LA, the Airbnb, it was when we played, it was when I played at the Forum actually, and I rented a Dodge Challenger because I wanted to be baller, and I got like this dark metallic red, and the Airbnb that I stayed at afterwards had, it was like the house was on a hill, so the driveway was like cut into the hill,
Yeah.
and it was like this narrow, and it was with like that popcorn type finish,
Yeah.
and I drove down to the end of it, and there was nowhere to park, and I was like, motherfucker, now I gotta like back out alongside this really narrow, basically like this alley
Yeah.
where there was but like wall on either side, and I fucking scraped the side of it, and I was like, God damn it. So I went out to see Keith, and I showed him. I'm like, dude, I can't believe I did that. He's like, yeah, it almost looks like the same color as your nails. And I'm like, hold on a second. So I got some nail polish out, and I did it. And I'm like, dude, you got like a buffing wheel, right? And he's like, I sure do. So he took the buffing wheel that he uses on the guitars, and we totally rigged it, and I didn't have to pay
Wow.
Enterprise any money at all.
$5,000.
Yeah.
They'll rake you over the coals for that. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, what a that's a good story. I love that.
All right, dude.
Buddy, have a great night, man. I'm really happy
Okay.
to speak with you tonight.
You too.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Mike. Later.
Bye.